got some fresh meat lined up, and I'm not gonna let you spoil it, not this time.
Tyler.
Yeah. Just think. Chucky's gonna be a bro.
If one of them fell in love with a black man, what would you do?
They've been told not to.
So that's a clip that's going viral of Steve Law on the Liam Tough podcast, and he was asked a question about his 3 daughters, which he clearly says that they've been instructed not to date any black guys. So my name is Channel the Man and Voice. Like, comment, subscribe to notification bells, and we're gonna break this down. I think you're gonna like this one.
If one of them fell in love with a black man, what would you do?
They've been told not to. Then.
Yo, the bravery. A man said he's told his daughters ahead of time, do not fall in love with a black man. You can't make this up. 2025.
I'm confused what this brother is so surprised at. You have a white man that's expressing that he has 3 white daughters and he doesn't want them to be with black men. And he's talking about his 2025. As a father, he's allowed to say that. He's allowed to. And I don't understand why, as a black man, you have an issue with a white man thinking like that.
You can't make this up. Mad.
No, they know very much the risks that comes with it. They know my opinions on this, and they will not do so.
I'm actually lost for words right now. I'm lost for words. Like, it's actually mad. What he's saying is actually mad. It's actually very, very mad.
You're going to need to break down what he's actually said that's mad. Because culturally, medically, spiritually, there's all manner of reasons why people stick to their own. Do you understand? Can anyone marry anyone? Of course. But if you're going to talk from a cultural aspect, well, it probably would make sense if a Muslim married a Muslim because they both have the same religion. They follow the same thing.
All right, Shalom. Before I begin, I'd like to start out by giving all honor, glory, and praise to Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem, Ruach HaKodesh, and double honors to the apostles, the elder bishops, and the elders of the great millstone. Peace and salutations to the Lord's elect that be in the house of David. All right, today is December the 28th, the year of 2025, the hopeful year of our deliverance. All right, the hour being the so-called Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans. Through the seed of our fathers, we represent the Israelites, as well as the judgment and destruction to the so-called self-proclaimed white nation, which they're not white, they're red, and according to the Bible, they're the Hebrew Edomites. All right, the wicked the Bible speaks of. All right, the devil the Bible speaks of. All right, and the Satan on this earth. All right, that the Bible speaks of. All right, and this video pretty much gonna be dealing with you know what I'm saying, the so-called black woman. All right, which will represent Eve. All right, her love and admiration. All right, for these devils. All right, and the devil's love, or hate rather, that he has for us, again, being the so-called Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans. So I showed you, all right, 2 clips. All right, it opened up with, you know what I'm saying, the so-called black woman adopting a so-called white baby. All right, now we understand and know, to be an Israelite, it's not a color thing per se. All right, the scriptures tell us how, you know what I'm saying, Ephraim is a cake not turned, and we know how through Jake, the man, the Israelite man, the so-called Negro, Latino, and Native American man, laying his seed, meaning his sperm, amongst the women of all these other nations. All right, you get different looking children, but they still go back to the father. All right, the seed always goes back to the father. Before I begin, I'm gonna get that scripture too. But the seed always goes back to the father, so he could easily have been a Israelite, but I'm tripping. It's in Numbers at the top. But for argument's sake, we're gonna say he's an Edomite. All right, because the Edomites, again, you so-called self-proclaimed white people. All right, you're coming up like he's one of you. All right, you seen the comments that they left toward, all right, the so-called Negro woman, which she deserved it. All right, you know what I'm saying? She had the blonde hair in her head. All right, she's destroyed. All right, and we all, as Israelite men in the know about, Eve's love for the so-called white man, all right? It goes all the way back to the garden, which we're going to read that in Genesis 3. At the top, we'll go down to about 17. All right, but the first scripture is right here in Numbers 1 and 18, just to prove that, you know, everybody goes back to their father. It say, and they assembled all the congregation together on the first day of the second month, and they declared their pedigrees after their families by the house of their fathers, according to the number of the names, from 20 years old and upward, by their polls. So that's just letting you know what I'm saying, you go back to your father's line, your father's lineage. All right, it don't matter what your mother is. So though he looked like a little Edomite, and we'll say he's an Edomite, he could easily be Israelite. You know, you got, just look at Drake's son, all right? He looked just like that boy, all right? But he's an Israelite. So we're going to deal with it. Again, we're going to spin it. We're going to take it from the argument point of view that the little boy that she adopted is a Edomite, you know what I'm saying, a devil. So we're going to read this right here in Genesis chapter 3. And then also, before I go in, the second clip you seen, you had the Edomite man, all right, basically come out and say that his daughters can't deal with Israelite men, all right, primarily the tribe of Judah, being the black man, all right, the Negro man, all right, and that's a very Edomite thing to do, all right. He has a right spirit to want to do that, because, you know, once your daughter comes one of ours, hey, that's it for her, all right? You know, she's our property now, you know. And he can want it all day, but it don't mean it's gonna happen. We all know how Becky is for the BBC. All right, you know what I'm saying? We just gonna be blunt and honest with it. We know how Becky, all right, runs after Jake, all right? That's why Esau even made the laws during plantation slavery, all right, to put more hell on Jake, because his woman would rather be with Jake during slavery than to be with him while he was inflicting the slavery. All right, but you know, y'all forgive me. We finna go through this right quick. Genesis 3, starting at verse 1, it say, now the serpent, which was more subtle than any beast of the field, which the Lord Yahweh Shemel power had made, and he said unto the woman, yeah, had power said, ye shall not eat of every tree of the garden. All right, now this serpent was a man. This wasn't a snake. All right, it's a spirit in a man. All right, when you read right here in Revelations 12, in verse 9, all right, it says, and the great dragon was cast out. All right, that dragon is you, Esau. You're the dragon on this earth, all right? You know what I'm saying? The Roman Empire is back in power today under the title of America. You know what I'm saying? And the great dragon was cast out, that old serpent called the devil and Satan, which deceiveth the whole world. He was cast out into the earth, and his angels was cast out with him, all right? Because Esau's going down, his military is going down, all of that's going. When Yahweh sends Yahweh Shai back, all right, to come redeem Israel, all right, starting with the elect of Israel. You know what I'm saying? So that old serpent, that's you, Esau. That was the spirit that's in a man, all right? And that spirit came through the serpent, then it came through Cain, and then, you know what I'm saying, on this side, you know what I'm saying, with Noah, Shem, Japheth, and Ham, you know, everybody comes from one of those three nations, being Shem, Japheth, and Ham. All right, the seed of the serpent, all right, came back through Esau. All right, so he's back today. All right, so you're the serpent today, Esau. All right, and Eve back then, that represents the so-called black woman today. Verse 2, and the woman said unto the serpent, we may eat of the fruit of the trees of the garden, but of the fruit of the tree which is in the midst of the garden, power has said, ye shall not eat of it, neither shall ye touch it, lest ye die. Now that tree, all right, it's like you know, you got the tree of good and evil, all right? That's that tree that the Lord didn't want us to eat of, was the tree of evil. All right, we was good at that point in time, all right, you know, but things had to play out how they had to play out. So Eve is having this conversation with the serpent, all right, and she let him know about, you know, what was commanded of them not to do. All right, and let's see what the serpent said. And the serpent said unto the woman, ye shall not surely die, for power doeth know that in the day ye eat thereof, your eyes shall be open, and ye shall be as gods, knowing good and evil. All right, and this is a trick, you know, the serpent knew to go to the woman with this, all right, because women are the weaker vessel. Women are easily more manipulated, all right, and at the same time, Adam was already a god on the earth. What do he need to know, all right, about, he already was in that stead, all right. Eve wanted to know what it was like to be a god, all right. That's why the world we see today is ran under that Queen of Heaven vibration. All right, Eve wanted to know what it was to be a god and all that shit. Adam already was in that stead. All right, so he went to her, and she let's see what she does. Verse 6. And when the woman saw that the tree was good for food, and that it was pleasant to the eyes, and a tree to be desired to make one wise, she took of the fruit thereof and did eat. All right, so she was taken by these philosophies and these ways. All right, just think about woman worship and all the things that came after she did this. All right, she saw it beforehand. All right, she saw all of that, the elevated state that these women were going to be put in. All right, when you read Jeremiah chapter 31 and verse 22, it say the Lord had created a new thing in the earth. A woman, let me read it. I don't want to butcher it. I'll come back to this. Jeremiah 31 and 22. Is it 22? Yeah. It say, how long wilt thou go about, O thou backsliding daughter? For the Lord Yahweh, by Hashem Yahweh Shai, had created a new thing in the earth. A woman shall compass a man. All right, because, you know, the woman's job from the beginning was to be a helpmate to the man, all right, not to be above him nor equal to him, all right. But again, following those philosophies of the devil, all right, you know, this is what came about, all right. That's why the scriptures say of the woman came the beginning of sin, and through her we all die. So seeing the so-called black woman today wanting to adopt a little, you know what I'm saying, a little wicked red devil, all right, it all falls into line with who we are and who they are, all right. So let me see, where was I at? I was in verse 6. It say, I'm start from the top again. And when the woman saw that the tree was good for food, and that it was pleasant to the eyes, and a tree to be desired to make one wise. And you read also in Job 39, and I think 17, it says, Yahweh Shemiah Shapel had deprived the woman of wisdom, neither had he imparted to her understanding. All right, that's why she's supposed to be ruled over by her man. All right, he's supposed to rule over her. All right, it starts with her father. All right, then her father's to pick her a husband, all right, of his choosing, all right, and then he transfers over his property, being his daughter, to her husband, which she becomes his property now. She's always supposed to be led. She's supposed to be under male authoritative leadership, all right. She's not supposed to be left to her own whims and her own, you know what I'm saying, thoughts, all right. The scriptures tell us about these women in their idle mind, all right. You know, Satan plays on their intelligence, if they have it, you know what I'm saying, or the lack thereof. He plays on their lack of intelligence, let's put it that way. All right, he plays on their emotions. All right. So again, it say, she took of the fruit thereof and did eat, and gave also unto her husband with her, and he did eat. All right, meaning she took that shit home to Adam. All right, and she finessed him, and you know what I'm saying, got him to go off, all right, by following behind her. All right, you know what I'm saying? So just like that, you know, the serpent came in, took Eve, got her mind, and then, you know, Eve went home and brought that shit to her man and got Adam's mind. All right. Verse 7, and the eyes of them both were open, and they knew they were naked, and they sewed fig leaves together and made themselves aprons. All right, so they started, you know what I'm saying, started sewing together different philosophies, all right, amongst the garden, because, you know, at this point in time, the laws and statute commandment were in the earth, but they were in it, let me see, how can I put it, it was more so word of mouth. It wasn't written at this time, but it was word of mouth on how to live and how to, you know what I'm saying, how we were supposed to do things, all right? And you always had three classifications of men on the earth. You had the sons of God, all right? Then you had the sons of men, which are the other nations. Then you had the sons of the wicked, which is Esau, all right? Which back then he was Cain. The sons of the wicked were Cain, all right? But that's again, that spirit that was in that serpent is the same spirit that was in Cain, all right? You know, so let me see, verse 8. And they heard the voice of the Lord Yahweh Shemel Power walking in the garden. They heard a prophet, because the Lord speaks through prophets. All right, in the cool of the day, and Adam and his wife hid themselves from the presence of the Lord Yahweh Shemel Power amongst the trees of the garden. All right, the other nations. All right, the children of men. You know what I'm saying? They was hiding amongst them. All right, because they knew they went off. All right. Verse 9, and the Lord Yahweh Shema Shai power called unto Adam and said unto him, where art thou? All right, and that's letting you know the order right there. He called Adam. He didn't say Adam and Eve, where y'all at. He didn't say Eve and Adam. He said Adam. All right, he was looking for Adam, the man. All right, and he said, I heard thy voice in the garden. This is what Adam said. And he said, I heard thy voice in the garden, and I was afraid because I was naked and I hid myself. And he said, who told thee that thou was naked? All right, so the prophet asked Adam, how you know you naked? Who told you was naked? How do you know you're naked? And then he said, hast thou eaten of the tree wherefore I commanded thee that thou shouldest not eat? And let's see what Adam said. And the man said, the woman, all right, being Eve, whom thou gavest me, all right, remember to be a helpmeet, she gave me of the tree, and I did eat. Showing that Eve was in the transgression. She led Adam off. All right. So let's see verse 13, see what the Lord had to say about it. And the Lord Yahweh Shema Shai power said unto the woman, what is this thou hast done? And the woman said, the serpent beguiled me, and I did eat. All right, so she got tricked by the serpent, and she's been, and that thing is still going down to this very day. That's why they'll adopt a Edomite baby. That's why when Eve gets around Esau, she put on her white woman voice. She gets proper. All right, when she goes to work, all right, she makes sure, you know what I'm saying, to do whatever her boss tell her. She do all that. All right.
Beguile.
All right, beguile, it says charm or enchant someone, sometimes in a deceptive way. All right, a devilish way. That's what Esau is. He's the deceiver. All right, he deceived the whole world. All right, the whole world. But he started with Eve. All right, you know what I'm saying? The so-called black woman. All right. So again, it says, and the Lord said unto the woman, what is this thou hast done? And the woman said, the serpent beguiled me, and I did eat. All right, and she liked what she ate, you know what I'm saying? And the Lord Yahweh Shema Shai power said unto the serpent, all right, to these Edomites today, because thou hast done this, thou art cursed above all cattle, and above every beast of the field. Upon thy belly shalt thou go, and dust shalt thou eat all the days of thy life. All right, and Esau went upon his belly. All right, when the Roman Empire fell, if I'm correct, the wicked Roman Empire fell, Esau was pushed up into the Caucasus Mountains in Georgia, Russia for 1,000 years, and he was living like a beast. All right, you know what I'm saying? Then through the Renaissance and the rebirth, you know, prophecy playing itself out, Esau got back in power. All right, you know, the plagues hit us as Israelites. You know, we took over the Roman Empire, and you know, the plagues hit us, and Esau got back in it, and he's been in it ever since then. All right, but he's cursed above all the cattle, all the nations on earth. You know, Esau got the Obadiah 1:18. All right, specifically for him. No other nation has a judgment written like that. All right, to be obliterated and wiped off of the face of the earth from every man, woman, and child, all of them, after they served a 1,000-year slavery sentence in the kingdom of heaven, which will take place on this earth. But let me get back into this. Genesis 3:15, it says, and I will put enmity between thee and the woman, and between thy seed and her seed. It shall bruise thy head, and thou shalt bruise his heel. All right, that's that division between the so-called Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans, but especially the Negroes dealing with this video, and you so-called white people. All right, enmity, the state of feeling or being actively opposed or hostile to someone or something. All right, this is the thing that's between, you know what I'm saying, again, the so-called Negroes and the so-called white folks today. All right, enmity. All right, and the Edomite man in the clip, he's in the right mindset. He get it. All right, he don't want his daughters going to get mowed down by Jake, because guess what? She gonna bring forth Jake children, no matter how they look. All right, she gonna bring forth some Jake children, and they're not gonna be, you know what I'm saying, Edomites. They're gonna be of a whole nother nation. All right, you as a man, you don't want your daughters going off sleeping with other nations. All right, that's some of the most disrespectful shit you could ever do. But that shows you that Esau is the base man on this earth too. All right, because he's ruling this earth right now. He could easily write it into law that his women can't do that, but he won't do it. All right, and the Lord controls everybody's steps. Don't get me wrong, but just saying, just think about how weak you gotta be to let some shit like that go down in the kingdom of heaven. All right, the Israelite women are only gonna be with Israelite men. All right, ain't gonna be no daughters of Zion with no heathens. All right, because you other nations are heathens ultimately. All right, and the way he don't want his daughters to be with the so-called black man today, which is warranted. I get it. Shit, I get it. But in the kingdom, he gonna have a whole different mindset. He's gonna wish that his children and his daughters specifically, because that's the only ones, all right, he's gonna wish his daughter to be with an Israelite man, even if it's a 2/3 Israelite in the kingdom. You devils are gonna wish your daughters was with those men, all right? You're gonna wish you had your daughters brought forth Israelite children. But in this world, I don't blame him for feeling that way. All right, verse 16, and to the woman he said, I will greatly multiply thy sorrow. This is the punishment for Eve following behind the serpent. All right, we just got the serpent's punishment. All right, and now we're getting Eve's punishment. Unto the woman he said, I will greatly multiply thy sorrow and thy conception. In sorrow thou shalt bring forth children. All right, that goes into the labor pains that all you women experience today, no matter what. Esau, the devil can't make a strong enough epidural to numb that pain. It goes on to say, and thy desires shall be to thy husband, and he shall rule over thee. So the woman is to be ruled over by the man. All right. Her husband, again, starting with her father and then her husband. All right. But the woman's desire is to be to her husband. The Lord is reiterating this to Eve. She should already know this. All right. Verse 17, and unto Adam he said, and this is the punishment that Adam took, because thou hast hearkened unto the voice of thy wife, and hast eaten of the tree of which I commanded thee, saying, thou shalt not eat of it. Cursed is the ground for thy sake. Let me see, in sorrow shalt thou eat of it all the days of thy life. All right, and we lived for a long time. We used to live forever, because we wasn't sinning then. We used to live a long time, but once this went down, sin came into the earth through envy of the devil. All right, sin came into the earth. And who envied the devil? The fucking black woman. All right, and that's why she's adopting his children. All right, in today's time. All right, that's why she's wearing his woman's hair in her head in 2025 going into 2026. That's why she's getting ready to go down to Egypt being America, all right, and get that charagma, that microchip, all right, to stay a part of this society because that's her lover. All right, this is Esau's world. All right, and Eve is his girl. You know what I'm saying? I wasn't even trying to rhyme, but it is what it is. Stockton Malone still running that motherfucking pick and roll strong in 2025. All right, but the Lord, all right, MJ is coming back, and I'm being facetious. We know the Lord's name ain't no fucking MJ. Fuck Michael Jordan. But we just saying, I used to call Michael Jordan on the court, you know what I'm saying, Black Jesus. And we know the Lord's name ain't Jesus. His name is Yahweh Shai. But just using metaphors, you know what I'm saying? Anyway, the Lord is coming back to break all this shit up. All right. It's already being broken up. All right. Even though Eve want Chucky to be a bro, it's not going to happen. He's just going to be a straight up Edomite to the end. And she going to be a dead Israelite over here getting melted in his land. All right. For thinking she could save him. All right. But that's it for the list. You know what I'm saying? I ain't going to look it no further. All right. You know what I'm saying? That's it. Lord willing, this flows together and made sense. All right, any questions or comments? I'm saying, just leave it for me and I'll, you know what I'm saying, clear it up. But that's it. That's it. All honor, glory, and praise go to Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem, Ruach HaKodesh. Double honors to the apostles, the elder bishops, and the elders of the great millstone. Peace and salutations to the elect, Kwam Yasharallah, and the Bible Ball. Shalom.